is a plant-based diet really the best way to see sports performance? In other words, is it the most performance-enhancing diet out there? Dr. Miller with some information on plant-based diets as it relates to performance. I'll talk about health in another video, and veganism and vegetarianism, so plant-based diets. But let's talk about performance. So some recent documentaries have made plant-based diets seem very alluring, very seemingly like they're the best way to go in order to see performance change. Now, I work with vegans, I work with vegetarians as a diet coach, and I've worked with athletes that are also vegan in the same context, athletes that are vegans, especially. That's a lot harder than being a vegetarian, depending on how strict you are as a vegetarian. But what are some of the unique challenges that vegans, plant-based diets face, and what are some of the benefits? Now, let me just start with there isn't necessarily, and I said necessarily, if I was forced to pick a diet for performance, it wouldn't be a plant-based diet. Now, I'm going to stick with the word necessarily, though. There isn't necessarily a diet that is best for performance. There could be the plant-based diet might be more beneficial for distance athletes if managed properly, and that's what I'm going to get to. Is it the best diet for Olympic-style weightlifters? No. Despite any video you might see, it's not. Is it doable? Yes. Is it the best? No. So if we're talking on the scale of best and good and not so good, there's one of those things that I was a good soccer player. I really wasn't, but I was I was one of the best American football players, right? I mean, I could still play soccer, but it doesn't, and I wasn't that great football either, but it doesn't mean that, I should continue to do that just because it can be done. And that's the point. So it's possible to take something that's good and make it better, but we have to think about when it comes to diet. I'm just trying to provide some context. So let's get into this. Just a couple things. 2 points in this video about a plant-based diet. Number one, the biggest detractor of a plant-based diet is protein intake. And it's not even necessarily the source, it's just the sheer amount of protein that's required is much more difficult and more expensive. Oftentimes the protein quality isn't good. It's high in sodium and fat if it's a processed source. And or if you're going to get protein from natural sources, it's going to have to be managed with a lot of work. Can it be done? Of course it can, but many people move to a plant-based diet thinking, okay, it's going to enhance performance, which I'll talk about in the second point for this video, but they don't count the cost and literally financially, time, energy expended, mentally in developing recipes, understanding how they need to eat during the day. These are unique challenges that a plant-based diet will have more than an omnivore diet. And again, I'm not saying it can't be done. In some sports, it could be more beneficial to really invest your time to do so. In other sports, it may not be. And again, I'm assuming here there isn't some overriding desire to avoid animal products based on an ethical concern. I'm just talking about it strictly in the terms of performance enhancement. So protein is a real problem, and work with individuals, more than likely it's supplement and powders are going to have to be part of your lifestyle. I'm not saying for most people that's just they're too busy in order to try to incorporate all these protein sources and not overrun on fat and sodium. And so when thinking about going to a plant-based diet, be very mindful of how much protein you need and look at the food that you're thinking about eating and can you really incorporate all the protein that's needed, and not even talking about bioavailability, the quality of the protein, all those things. Let's just assume that animal protein and plant protein is the same, which it isn't, but let's assume that it is. Even then, you might find it's very difficult to get in 100 grams of protein per day, okay, without supplementing. And you have to decide if you're willing to do that much powder. So you have what is seemingly a healthy diet that's many people invest as natural, but it has a lot of synthetic components that are required in order to see success. Now on the other side, what's the benefit of a vegan diet or plant-based diet? Well, that is blood flow. And I think kind of sillily exampled in some of these movies, I call them movies, they're documentaries, I guess, is this idea of blood flow and how it is important. Now, there's no doubt that fruits and vegetables provide enhanced blood flow from a sedentary lifestyle. So again, we have to decide where we're starting from here. So absolutely, if you haven't been eating any fruits and vegetables, there's going to be a benefit that is derived from eating fruits and vegetables because of nitric oxide, because of antioxidants, because of all these positive blood flow components, just a general healthier panel of your life. Like your whole body's going to operate better because of this huge micronutrient bolus. And so that's not a surprise. So the thing is to keep in mind, though, is that you don't have to be a plant-based diet, though, in order to get those benefits. We just like to go in extremes. You know, the carnivore diet's nothing but meat, and then the veganism's nothing but fruits and vegetables. Again, I'm excluding any ethical issues here that may underride the drive to do that. And usually the people that are very successful with plant-based diets, especially very strict ones, have ethical reasons why they're doing it, and that's why they can stick with it. For many of the people I've worked with that started on a vegan diet did not stay the course because it was just too hard to manage. And it was the benefits could be derived from a better diet from the omnivore diet they started with. So you have to look at this two pieces. Can I get the protein in? And then on the other side, the benefit of a vegan diet, the real benefit of the vegan diet is blood flow and improved blood flow and recovery. Can I get that still and still maintain an omnivore diet? I'm not advocating for one or the other. I'm just saying you got to count the costs a little bit instead of just diving headlong into this veganism. Because if you can't get the protein, and especially if you're a strength and power athlete, you're going to have extraordinarily amount of hard time gaining muscle mass and or even maintaining it. If you're an endurance athlete, you may be able to get enough protein to maintenance the rigor of your training, and then the blood flow enhancement maybe is a benefit. So if you're an ultra marathoner, veganism may be a diet that you might be interested in if you can get the protein in. If you're a powerlifter, Olympic style weightlifter, that's going to be a lot harder and to be successful, at least as good as you could be if you're only eating plant-based sources. So just some things to think about. You can argue with me in the comments if you want to. I don't think I'm saying anything too provocative. It's just I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm just saying count the cost a little bit before you dive into this whole plant-based diet thing. And if you're an athlete that's looking to gain mass and to be a more power, strength, field, court sport athlete, it might be a lot harder to be a plant-based diet than you think. And if you don't do it well, you can actually see decrements in performance because of the loss of skeletal muscle mass over time. All right, subscribe to my channel if you'd like to hear more about sports and exercise and nutrition and fitness. We're talking about it almost every day, trying to put out as much content as I can to hopefully inform you on things you might be interested in the field.